And before I bring up the commissioner, I want to let you know that, yes, this is a public forum. We need to make sure we are being respectful, we are being calm, we are asking good questions, right? Okay. He is going to be speaking about Greenport, the AI data center. There is a meeting tonight at the same time as this, so he'll stay afterwards to ask or to answer any questions you may have about the AI data center. But for the purposes of this meeting, he's going to be talking about Greenport because there's so much information to share. So please welcome Commissioner David Glass.
Good evening. Thank you all for the invite.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know what I was thinking about wearing this jacket. I don't know, it's a little warm in here, but yeah, I may once all said and done, I may have to do that.
There's some water here, sir.
Thank you very much. Again, thanks for inviting me tonight. You know, Greenport has been on y'all know, on the radar for 25 years, somewhere along in there, you know, Central Texas Airport. It has evolved a new type of an entity, and I've been dealing with Greenport, Mr. Jim Carpenter, and Felix is sitting here in the back room, his principal, for about 3.5 years, maybe close to 4 years now. And it's gone through several different iterations, and so a lot of different conversations about it. So I asked Felix to join me here tonight, so that way we get it from the horse's mouth, so I don't misspeak. Because again, I know of a lot of different processes over the last 3.5 years, and things have changed. And so I felt it was best if I invited him to come here tonight, so I didn't misspeak in any way. Felix, would you mind joining me up front here? Would you have a...
You guys don't mind if I leave my jacket off?
No.
I'm gonna take mine off.
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's good. Hopefully I won't need my glasses, so. Felix, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Felix Zayas. I am the Chief Security Officer for Greenport, as well as one of the board members and part of the leadership team. My background is 27 years in the military, retired last year. Did a few things, starting with Special Operations Ranger Regiment, then appointed to West Point, then flew helicopters, then went to military intelligence, and then right before I left the military, I was a space qualified Army officer. So all of that said, when it comes to this particular project, what really attracted me is I've been at war fighting terrorism and some bad threats for a couple decades now, and I got tired of trying to ask permission to drive innovation to equip our nation to win. Jim Carpenter and the team around Greenport gave me a platform to provide safe communities as well as field solutions that we need on a national level, because with my clearance and what I'm doing, I've been in those rooms for a long time, especially with this project. From Department of War to, they know what I've been doing here, and so this county, our project has been uniquely set up with some very unique capabilities that the nation needs. And so that's where speed, impact, it absolutely has morphed, and a lot of it has morphed because of just the rooms we happen to be in. But we want to really clear the air on where we're at right now, what we can say, what we don't say, because when you're trying to do good things, that's challenging in this world, right? And so I will, not, do kind of the whole, soapbox, but the bottom line is you're not a regular audience for me, okay? And so I will speak in my civilian capacity as a direct descendant of William Bradford and the writer of the Mayflower Compact. I got a lot of ties to this country, okay?
Oh, that must make us relatives.
Yeah, more than likely, yeah. And then I'm both my grandparents on my mother's side. And so, with that said, I understand what this country can do. I've seen the good overseas for decades, okay? But it's also something that has to be hard fought for, and the challenges that we really face are very, very legitimate. And so, in just one example, like my West Point classmate has lost the most since 9/11, okay? And so there's a lot of unique things that we're looking to do with this project, but we can't do that without really courageous leadership that understands the way I say it, I'm not asking permission to do good anymore, okay? I'm partnering up with people that understand our ideals, understand what's at, and that's where the AI and data centers, all that stuff, we're getting into some of that potentially, just because there's certain areas that we know our nation is losing, and we're not going to just sit on the sidelines, because that absolutely affects our communities. So that's a little bit about me and kind of why I've just been really, being educated. not the politician. I don't have everything that he has on his plate from the business acumen, but from a point of, stopping threats and protecting people, it's what I've been doing for a long time, and I plan to continue to do that. So.
My concern too, and the reason I invited Felix here tonight, of course, there's been many, it's morphed a lot. But I didn't want to misspeak or speak too much about issues, because there is a lot of security issues out there, that you're speaking of, and so you might want to touch on it a little bit, what you can and can't share. And so, again, I was concerned that I might spill the beans, if you will, and say maybe too much, and I thought it would be best for you to address that.
So right now, where we're at is the project is not 100% go. And it's because of a couple of nuances. A lot of them has to do with just kind of funding and control. We're very, very close, but we have some very significant backers from the Department of War to the U.S. Army that have asked us to do very specific things. That will tie in eventually to the aviation asset, i.e. Builder and Reliever Airport for this part of Central Texas, as well as getting into the data and the power generation place. Because with some of the, and this kind of goes back to the conversations we have with him, when it comes to this county, how do we help? Okay, with my partners being fifth generation Texans, a lot of work and relationships east of Austin especially, very, very focused on what can we do. So there's some very unique technology and there's some very unique security solutions that Greenport is looking to field that no one else in the nation has. And the reason we can do that is because we have such a forward-leaning county and we're private. And so that's been part of the dynamics of the last few years. And so I'm really saying very, very little right now, but I will say when it comes to AI, data, power, there's some solutions that we have access to that we are dealing with, that we are fielding here and want to field, that is going to give our nation some options again, and our communities specifically, because as some of you may or may not know, when I talk, and I specifically talk China, I talk the CCP. Okay, I don't separate China and the Communist Party right now, because as an intel officer, former, and what I do as a security officer, there are certain challenges that our nation faces and our companies face. And so we're trying to really push back on the corporate espionage side so that we can remain competitive as a nation, because it gets really expensive and they're very, very aggressive. And so, yes ma'am.
Will this be a vendor neutral data center there at the airport?
So right now we haven't decided what we're doing on data centers yet.
Okay.
And so that's part of the conversation is with the Department of War, with certain vendors doing some very unique things, we're tailoring what we can do to what aligns with some national support, because there's certain authorities and capabilities that we can't do and we don't have. And we would need, big brother, big sister to actually authorize it. So right now, we don't have any locked vendors, but we are very, very sensitive to, non-US, vendors and solutions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you know why I brought this
Why
man.
Bastrop County? Why can't you stick it in Austin?
Okay, so one, because my partners have dealt with Austin, okay? And so that's a non-starter. So that's what it literally happened is basically, my partners have built 5 blocks of downtown Austin and developed 10,000 acres east of Austin. The reason we're not dealing with Austin with this specific project is because of speed and because of bureaucracy, and also, bottom line is we can work in Bastrop and actually get things implemented and control some of the variables that make it very, very hard to raise capital and to do new things.
Okay. I'm going to ask a question, and Mr. Glass, I don't want you to take offense.
No, ma'am.
But does that mean that you've got the Commissioner's Court under your thumb?
No, ma'am. Just like, so there's other boards that we sit on. I'm working for myself. I work with the leadership of the county so that they don't get blindsided, because they have a very hard job. And I work with them because I don't know what we can do for Bastrop. Just like we're looking with the Department of War in the United States, we're going, what can we do? We put the same thing on the commissioners, going, what can we do for Bastrop County? Because especially for me, I'm not Texan, if you can't tell, okay? And so I don't know what Bastrop County needs, and from time to time, they're able to go, can you look at this? Can you consider this?
There is one consideration for those of us who live on the opposite side of the Colorado River. It's going to affect our property values, and this has been, and Commissioner Glass knows this because we've spoken in front of him and the rest of the commissioners about this. that we're not supporting it
Mhm.
for that reason.
And
Many
that's,
of us
and that's
spent
where you guys are all private citizens.
$1 million for our property, and it's going to, obviously, and you know this, and I'm sure you're aware of this, it's going to negatively impact the value of our property.
Well, I'm not going to say what's going to negatively impact, but you get to make a decision based off of what you have and what you're doing. I'm making a decision based off of what my partners are trying to do. So,
Come to the Commissioner's Court on Monday. Watch what's gonna happen.
Okay.
so and go ahead.
So the
Yeah.
reason I'm sorry, hang on, just let me finish my thought here. So, yes, you're representing Mr. Carpenter and his group, and you talk about what Bastrop County needs. Well, for those of us who live in Bastrop County, this is not what we need. And there is an airport, executive airport. Why can that not be expanded?
So, ma'am, so right now, a true reliever airport is why those other ones can't expand. And that's what we're talking about for Central Texas area.
Can you share what a true reliever
Yes,
airport
so right now, when you get weathered out in ABIA, you have to go to San Antonio, Houston, or Dallas. And the reason is because there's not an instrument-rated airport in the immediate vicinity, which basically means you have a runway longer than 6,000 feet and you have ILS instrument landing capability. And so that's one of the things that the state came to us for years ago. Can you get out the solution? Jim was like, let me look around, and that's what also led us to Bastrop, was this was a location that could actually build that type of airport.
But can they just not expand the one that's there and make it that?
Because I believe, no. And some of it has to do with vegetation, certain power lines, all that stuff. That's what the other challenges are for those airports.
Those are all things that can be.
Ma'am, I'm just telling you, that everything can be fixed,
Sure.
but the question is who's going to fix it? And so that's where, I'm not going to defend why they can't innovate. We got asked to do something, and this is what we came up with, and that's why we're pursuing it.
I see.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, I want to ask you about your security expertise.
Okay.
It's not necessarily related to the airport, although it could be.
Okay.
I started 6 sessions ago trying to get Texas to harden its critical infrastructure
Yep.
against nuclear EMP,
Mhm.
as well as handheld directed energy weapon
Yep.
EMP.
Yep.
Okay? We finally got our first bill to study it last session,
Mhm.
okay? When I hear that AI is coming, and I hear that AI is national defense,
Mhm.
the first thing I ask is, all these data centers, are we hardening those against either directed energy weapons or nuclear EMP, so that if it is national defense, they don't get taken down with that, a fairly simple, cheap little device? And I guess you could say the same thing about the air traffic controls in any airport. Do you know what the thinking is in the industry, or what your thinking is about all that?
So that's actually one of my niches. And so part of the reason why I really like Greenport is because there's been some national initiatives that haven't taken place. And it's been specifically because there's other actors that have other agendas, and there's a lot of vulnerability. And if you talk that, you're really talking, the grid. And I was on the side, from a private side, fighting that battle with senators, with other individuals, to actually field solutions to save lives before there's, a grid shutdown. And so, what you're talking about, there's a couple reasons why it's not being addressed from a macro perspective, even with the executive orders that have been put out for a while now. And that's where we have some ability to move certain things forward and then go, listen, you took your time, that doesn't remove the threat. And so here's a solution.
Now, by the way, just as an interesting thing, over this last 15 years, or whatever it's been, it's a long time, at least a few of those command centers of the grid have actually built hardened, completely surrounded with the Faraday cage type stuff. We've got our emergency centers are not hardened.
And not to nerd out on what he's specifically talking about, when you start talking like EMP threats, typically they fall into 3 categories: E1, E2, and E3. E2 and E3 are really the most common, a lightning strike, you know, a little thing goes off, but the E1 is really what he was talking about from a high altitude nuclear situation. And the bottom line right now is there are very, very few solutions on that. And let's just say there might be some solutions, and there's other individuals that have done their best to make sure those solutions aren't fielded.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Would you expand a little more? We've got the old military area by ABIA. It's got a lot of facilities for aircraft and whatever now, versus coming and starting all over in Bastrop County in Greenport.
So close to residential.
Hmm?
So close to residential.
Well, for various reasons, you know.
So I'm not going to get into why we can't do something somewhere else. The bottom line for us is we saw an opportunity to build a reliever airport, and we set about doing that. And
What do we need to do to shut it down, Greenport?
well, I'll let you figure that out, sir. I'll let you figure that out.
So we all come mess with us. So basically, we need to get tougher. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying anything, and that's literally what.
Probably wouldn't, but that's what we need to say.
Well, you guys can.
He's not saying that.
Justin?
Am I remembering correctly, you said that you were an intelligence service?
Yep.
By chance, do you have familiarity with the Jade Helm event that happened, like, I don't know, maybe it's 10, 12 years ago? So I'm looking at the response to your face, I'm guessing no. So Jade Helm was an event during the Obama administration, and it was a legitimate military exercise to train the United States military to conduct their operations within civilian population and perform their maneuvers without being identified. And this training was important so the military could go overseas and have covert operations integrating with the civilian population. And there was a map. This is a legitimate training exercise, okay? There was a map that showed this part of Texas as the hot zone, if you will. The China, Russia, and others, they infiltrated the United States by way of social media and raised concerns of the masses. And we had hundreds of people fill our commissioner's court with concerns of this Jade Helm military exercise that Obama was going to dismiss Congress and become a dictator. Okay, there was a sincere concern. Our governor, Abbott, deployed the state guard, and this is the first time this has ever happened in history, to observe the United States military exercises. As a means to alleviate concerns, to show that he's listening and is doing something. It went off within our county, other than maybe hearing a helicopter here and there, a military helicopter here and there. I personally didn't notice anything, and it all kind of, ended up being a big to-do about nothing eventually. But all the hysteria, I reflect back on, and I see some of the things today of, it's with respects to data centers. I personally use AI on a daily basis, and first it was water. They're using all of the water. Well, then we learned about closed loop systems. And then we learned about they don't use more water than 5 residential houses. And then the next, and I actually heard this from a lobbyist in DC. I was at a meeting in Texas A&M where the lobbyist said a legitimate concern is an increase in electrical prices because you have a higher demand in a localized area for that energy. And then I learned last night that, this one data center meeting that they're going to be bringing power to the grid and paying for their own infrastructure. And so
behind the meter power?
Yeah. So, I hear about these things, and then I hear about what's being done, and I continue to see stuff on social media, and I'm just wondering how much how much of the concern against data centers is arising from foreign influences to us individually? I was at the Republican convention last week, and I will share with you this, that there was a very strong momentum against data centers at the convention. So there is a sincere concern about this, and I'm just curious, are we being manipulated by influences outside the United States?
So I can only talk for me and where I sit right now as a civilian that's in the security sector is in my understanding of the CCP and their operations, specifically in these couple areas. And so when you start talking energy and data, there's absolutely outside influence. Okay, to what degree? That's what the unknown is right now. But it really makes sense because from a CCP perspective right now, they're looking at the fourth industrial revolution coming, and that's why you see a lot of activity around data centers, energy, and space. And so they're looking at propping up companies to be successful for that next run. And that's where right now, for America to remain competitive, the energy is going to be a really unique piece because that's what's really tied to, the AI advancement. And so anything they can do to help slow it down, to have challenges, is just going to benefit them right now because just like us, we have our processes, okay? They have a lot of processes that get streamlined very, very quickly. And so that's why, right now, Austin Energy has what, 7.5, gigawatts of energy. China has the ability and is building tens of gigawatts a year just like that. And, we're a little bit more challenged, not from a technical capacity, but from a, structural capacity. And basically what I was saying, if I was in their shoes, I would be influencing it because a lot, and that's why the learning curve, the misinformation, and then just the development is Moore's law and all that stuff is really affecting AI and quantum computing.
So is this Greenport being developed for security reasons or
No.
for?
It's being built to be a reliever airport, but we have to put a premium on security. If we don't protect our airport,
Sure.
then you don't have, and so that's part of the charge that we want to do is we understand how vulnerable a lot of the other airports are around the world and around the US. It's hard for a lot of airports to innovate because they're so archaic. And so what we're trying to do here is show some best-in-class solutions, so now these other airports can also see what it's done and see how it looks right, and they go, you know what, we need that security solution for our airport.
So who's going to be using that, the Greenport?
For
Who's going to be using Greenport?
right now, it's going after the general aviation infrastructure. So basically, your private general aviation, because ABIA has the millionaires and all that stuff. That's the client that we're going
So
after.
does the executive.
Correct.
Right.
But they're maxed out and they don't have any hangar space. And so that's where for us that's a really good niche. We're not going to do it.
It does seem like executive air might be better fit. I was with the University of Texas for so long, and that's a major hub that University of Texas used to get around the whole state. And it just seems to me, I know that's Elon Musk territory over there, but I mean, literally, it looks like there's more land and everything that could be expanded. I don't know.
It probably really won't be, and part of it has to do with the fact of what ABIA was historically, the B-52s, some of the location with munitions, as well as the issue they have with birds on the south side, and so they're really landlocked, and that's where, we're very familiar with some of the strengths and weaknesses of ABIA, and this is just a problem they can't really fix. Sure.
I'm Don Lux, I'm a pilot, military also. I met with Mr. Carpenter 16 years ago when the original proposal was north of 969 and east of 1704.
Okay.
And when I spoke, we had a very good meeting, and his idea for operations there were mainly for maintenance.
Yep. MRO.
Scheduled maintenance facilities because they're out of room here, out of room in San Antonio, and also cargo. What is the nature of flight operations that you envision for this airport and how many movements per day?
So I'm not going to tell you that because I don't know what it is yet. But what we're going to focus on is building a reliever airport, and more than likely we will have some MRO capabilities.
You say you have maintenance capabilities?
We plan to have maintenance
Yeah,
capabilities.
because they're out of room everywhere else.
Correct. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
We argued several years ago from a county commissioner, was told that there was talk about underground military facilities at Greenport. Is that?
I'm not going to say whether that's happening or not, but right now, I've already told you, right now, we're looking to build a reliever airport. And, as he mentioned, we'll get into probably some MRO business. That's the core business that I can kind of disclose right now. That's what we're focused on.
So Greenport, over the years, I've heard of all kind of different phases of construction out there. Is Greenport just the airport, or does it include other development?
So the way we commonly refer to it is, Greenport and, a technology center. So we have the core, airport operations, and then more than likely we'll have some type of manufacturing on some of the other locations that take advantage of the international airport.
Manufacturing of what?
We don't know yet. We haven't locked those tenants in. Sir?
40 years ago, I was involved in the transfer of the Houston airport system, involved in the transfer of a portion of Ellington Field to the Houston Airport Department. There was an issue, and of course, there was a lot of studies made relative to the correlation between the two airports, the coordination, the interaction between the two airfields, the issue with FBOs. What do you see to be the primary interaction between ABIA and Greenport relative to general service or provision of general service?
So we will be a standalone operation, but the relationship with ABIA is they're appreciative of the capability that we're trying to get after, which is going after the general aviation, because they can't control their airspace, and so they have to cater to a lot of the smaller aircraft, the Cessna's 142s, as well as those large, 737s. And so for us, we actually help their operations from an efficiency perspective, because
will there be a tie-in and coordination between any kind of transportation aspects, anything like that? Because
we don't know yet.
The close proximity.
Yes, but right now ABI is fully aware of what we're doing, and we do have letters of support from them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Data centers, why are they spread over hundreds of acres?
I don't know, ma'am. I haven't built a data center. I don't know all the ins and outs on why the data centers have that footprint.
But here, Texas is so often subject to drought, like we have in the last 2 years. But they're covering acres and acres, hundreds of acres in concrete, and we rely on groundwater. Well, that prevents groundwater from reaching wells and aquifers. And we're up in arms about it. And if they need water, go to someplace like Ohio that has water. Leave us alone. And if they got to be kept cool, put them in Nebraska.
Well heard, ma'am, and I'm learning too.
But from which direction is most of the flight patterns?
It'll probably have a 182 runway. We're going to be paralleling ABIA.
What direction?
So, south.
182 mean?
South, from the south.
What does 182 mean?
360 degrees, azimuth 182 is so basically if you look at where Bergstrom is in their runway, we're going to be paralleling that runway 10.1 miles away so that it can have the same flight path. And
Prevailing wind is from the south.
That's where it gets right. So the majority of the flights are, yeah. I think that's what.
Okay, so I do private airport rides to the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people's planes get diverted, like you said, to other places,
Mm-hmm.
they can now divert them over here?
Yes, ma'am. That will be the intent of us
I'm
building
just
the
trying to
airport.
get it basic in my head of
Yeah.
what's going on.
Very simply, just a general aviation airport, and now a lot of those smaller aircraft from ABIA can land here.
Because I live right up the road in the colony,
Mm-hmm.
so it's right on the flight path.
Yep.
Wow.
So what is the frequency of those diversions?
We don't know yet, ma'am. We don't have that
No, I
fast.
mean, like,
More
you
than
need
we
an
want.
airport, you have to have some kind of justification, you have
Well, we
1,000.
already have a business model that supports just general aviation, so, but I don't have those numbers, and so with the fuel cells for that, it will clear.
Behind you, there's a lady right behind you, and then we'll get that. Oh,
Joyce.
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 Are they gonna build that bridge at the end of Pope Bend the same time they're gonna build the airport?
So, one of the things that we have been looking at is how to get those bridges accelerated, because we do understand the emergency serious, surge liability that happens right now with 71 and 969. So more than likely, as Greenport develops, we'll probably work on getting that bridge done as fast as possible, because that emergency response time is a really big deal. Sir? Yes.
In your business plan, what is the starting date for construction?
We don't have that determined yet, sir. No. And that's part of why everybody, we're just telling you, like, we're hearing these meetings, well, I don't know when we're starting, so if anybody else is telling you when they're starting, they're probably.
But like you said, it's not fully approved yet, correct?
Correct.
How many years would it take to construct once you start?
I think for us, probably 2 to 3 years. We have a very, very aggressive timeline.
What length runway?
10,000 feet.
I mean, I will tell you, one day, because like I said, I live in the colony, I had a victim service call I went down 1209 and I tried to turn left on 969. The call with the sheriff's office was 7 miles away from me. It took me 30 minutes to get there.
There's a light going in there here real soon.
That was my next question. You guys are going to have to do something.
We've been fighting for that, and TechDOT's had their meetings, and so
Okay.
even SpaceX agreed to fund it, so.
Okay.
I'm just reading my notes here. Let's see. I read that a Texas Landmark 381 agreement was unanimously approved by Bastrop County officials. 381, 384? 381, that's, yeah, okay.
That was
I didn't
20
know.
years
Yeah.
ago.
20 years ago.
It's no
yeah.
longer in existence.
It's no longer?
Yeah, we voided
Yep,
it.
they voided it.
It is voided, okay, all right,
So it's no longer in effect.
okay. Let's see. Did anyone do an income to expense analysis, including estimate tax income versus governmental service costs?
I don't have those answers, and I don't know, ma'am.
Don't, because I don't really know what the assets are gonna be, so I mean, it's still so great, that it'd be very difficult for us to know
Okay,
until we know more about the actual plans, what's-
okay.
and then we'll be able to do that analysis.
I see.
But right now, it's just too early for us to even attempt to.
So what question have we not asked that we should have asked?
You're a really
So
good
maybe
plan.
is Elon Musk gonna have his own private hangar there?
He could, but it's ultimately up to us who goes there, and so that's part of the private control. So
I had one that had been asked, if the military's not gonna be involved in this, how much sooner could it get started?
well, the military being involved or not being involved is not a factor for this getting started.
As far as the airport, I think
It
you're
is.
referring to.
Well, not according to what the commissioner told me a couple of years ago.
Well, I can't speak to a couple years ago. I can speak to right now.
So there's no military.
It's a private property. It's a private project. Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Will 71 get built faster because of this airport?
Well, please. It couldn't be fast enough. I think we'd all agree to that. So at least we're getting overpasses.
That's a TxDOT question.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, at least the overpasses, the county's been working with TxDOT, so we've had many, many meetings, and so they started on the one at Tucker Hill over there, and they'll follow with the next two, so. They should, in my view, should have started at,
2019.
yeah, exactly, but the issue was they were able to get the utilities out of the way first there at Tucker Hill, and that's why that one got let.
Well, and I
And all the right-of-way questions were also settled.
That's what I'm saying, they already had the right-of-way done, and the utilities were able to be relocated and get them out of the right-of-way, and so that's why they
Well, I
started
think
there.
now with the pipeline for the jet fuel.
Yeah, will you be tapping into the Jet A pipeline from 71 up there?
We don't know yet, but we're definitely aware of it.
Certainly makes sense to, but.
Sir?
With all the starts and stops on this project over the past almost 2 decades now, why should we get excited about this new initiation? Do we have?
So I don't want you to get excited. I'm in the business right now. I want to start executing. And so when we have our ducks in a row and we're moving forward, that's when I want people to get excited. Right now, we're just not there. We're still working on it, but there's a couple, like you said, there's a lot of work that hasn't been done yet because of just where we're at.
Are we any closer to achieving that now than we were 10 years ago?
I think we are significantly closer. Yep.
All right.
Sir.
I'll just ask, in general, what are the positives for Bastrop County and the people here for having this, and what are the negatives from your perspective?
Well, and that's where I want to, the whole goal for me right now is to just, support Commissioner Glass, support the Bastrop County leadership, give you guys a little bit of information, but also, be very discreet. The bottom line is a reliever airport is a very unique capability for the state of Central Texas. And so what do I think it's going to really do is it's going to drive some very unique high-paying jobs to the county. And it's also going to bring some very unique technology on the security side to the county. And so that's the two biggest ways that I see. And then, oh, by the way, because of our partners, how we're addressing security, there's some additional augmentation that we can do for the sheriff's department, for the law enforcement, for the EMS that we can do privately because of what we're looking to do. So there's some cross-training because, for example, when it comes to law enforcement, okay, good police officers have a hard time getting good training, okay? As a former soldier, I understand the value of that training. So part of our training for the individuals that help secure ours, we want to make sure we give that access to the EMS capabilities within Bastrop County. And so because you guys, all the money's not going to training the police officers, but when we're running some of our training, we can have them augment that. And so that's one of the ways that I think we'll have immediate impact is being able to help on the proficiency side from the police officers, which actually affects their insurance, which actually drives it down for the county. Because that's a really big liability right now for the police officers is how they have to train with their weapons and maintain currency and the insurance that are forcing them. We're already figuring out a way to really help drive that down and serve.
So we did make them aware of that the SO, the Sheriff's Office, needs a training facility, and so verbally they said, yes. So.
You used a term that I'm not sure I know the definition of.
Okay.
You used the term general aviation.
Yes.
Does that mean private guys that are not the commercial stuff?
Yes. So general aviation, think, your G650s, your Bombardiers, okay, we're not going air cargo, and air cargo is basically your FedEx, your UPS. We're not doing any of that because once you open up to air cargo, then air cargo as well as the training aircraft, the 172s, they all get access to your airspace. A key thing for us on the security side is to really control our airspace, so that's why it's going to be general aviation, specifically excluding all air cargo unless it's specialized air cargo. So for example, if the SpaceX facility, the Samsung facility needs a certain ship from South Korea, they can fly right into us and have that direct access. So that would be one of the capabilities that starts to have certain goods and services move through this airport, supporting companies in Central Texas.
But United and Southwest
Nope.
and all those people are not coming?
Negative, correct.
If the ABIA gets shut down for whatever reason, because of weather or whatever, then somehow it's the same weather is not shutting down there, although I don't think that would be rare. Or would commercial flights like that come to this airport?
We have the capability. How that gets worked out, and that'll be part of the dialogue that we'll have with ABIA, is we're set up as a reliever airport. If certain worst case scenarios happen, how do we augment? Because again, the nuance for us is we're going to have our private business in our model, but we also want to augment and support the community, but we have to plan for that.
Okay, now, I asked the question, what's the negatives? And I think I've heard from this crowd.
Yeah.
The negatives are a whole bunch of airplanes coming over that makes noise.
Correct.
That's going to be the thing that's going to impact the Bastropians the most, I would think.
That could be one.
If it's general aviation, which is, in other words, private craft, you would think that would not be as high volume as if it were commercial aviation. I mean, what is, in general, the kind of stuff you're envisioning, how much volume is there going to be compared to a commercial airport like ABIA?
I don't have an ABIA us conversation, comparison yet. And that's what we're going to really find out. But with just the growth, and by the way, another advantage is so right now we know Bastrop County is looking to be designated tourism and hospitality. Okay, and so there's a lot of money coming into Texas for the film industry. Well, what a lot of people don't realize is there's a choke point in the film industry, and that choke point is the videos. when you start filming in 4 and 8K, you need certain videos that as soon as those are done shooting, they're on a plane and gone. Well, that's one of the capabilities having this airport here that we're gonna really be able to augment is more film in Central Texas because they can get those aircraft in and out in a quicker turn.
And I would say typically it'd be the smaller aircraft, jets and things, it's not the 777s or.
Yeah, no,
It's gonna make a
absolutely
lot of noise, I guess, just for clarity. Yes, sir.
Hey, this was for you.
Uh-huh.
If this thing does happen, what's the chances of our property taxes having another little line on them, anything to do with this?
Nothing.
No chance
No,
whatsoever?
sir.
It's not gonna increase our taxes.
No, ma'am.
They're gonna pay for their own stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
And let me double
For us
down,
to
let
do
me
anything,
let me double down on that, ma'am.
We wouldn't
From
allow
a,
it to-
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
From a private perspective, I want to use my money instead of trying to wait on yours. And so that's what our model is, and that's why it's also taken a little bit longer is because, we have some significant, capital requirements so that we can build it properly, and we're not compromising on that, and that it's a little bit heavier lift.
On the internet the other day, I saw an ad for a guy trying to raise money to do flying cars,
Okay.
okay? And he claims,
I think I might have seen that one too.
Huh?
I think I might have seen that one.
And he's been on some investment shows and stuff like that. And he seems to have his act together. I'm not gonna invest because there was a lot more due diligence before I would invest, right? But it's super sexy and super cool, right? But when I think about private cars, and of course, I think there's gonna be a lot of self-driving technology, AI technology comparable to what embedded he was talking about that. From your security perspective about an airport, I imagine there's going to be a lot of concerns about how if we get flying cars in any degree of penetration into the market, there's going to be a whole nother set of issues for you to think about as a security guy.
Yep.
By the way, they were saying, he said he's taking orders now, he's already got orders, it's only $400,000, man.
You'd order too?
No, simply put, my job's not getting easier with some of these new technologies. But the bottom line though is these new technologies are coming, and so, where do you figure that out? And so that's where, my job's already hard enough. I want to, help us be successful, but I also don't want to bite off more than I can chew as incrementally, we have a couple things to get after versus driving innovation for the nation on, advanced air mobility or eVTOLs and all that stuff. That's going to be a complicated problem set. And by the way, we're already aware of that just from an aviation operation perspective, just with ATC, air traffic controllers, and so there's some challenges that they're facing, so.
Yes, sir.
From an advanced technology standpoint, is this going to be possibly the most advanced airport? And is that kind of what y'all are shooting for? Is that in the country?
Yes. If we're able to integrate the technology and some of the people that we want to bring to the table, it will be a very, very sophisticated airport.
It's the most advanced in the country.
More than likely.
How many employees do you anticipate?
It all depends. And what I mean by depends is, normal airport operations and then the design and build phase. And so it can fluctuate. And so that's where, right now, I don't know because it's going to be dependent on, the capital raised, what we really end up building.
Is it going to be run by real people or is it robots?
So I'm looking at real people will be running it. We'll probably have some, robots as security dogs. Yeah.
Elon is down the street.
That's right.
Fair question.
How many total acres?
6,000.
What does that include?
I'm not going to break down the dynamics of it, but basically our footprint's a 6,000 acre footprint with a 10,000 foot runway. 10,000 foot runway. Yep.
So like right where you have the entrance, can I just buy 1 acre right there?
You could, and you can buy an aircraft too. So, the bidding starting at 400,000.
I just want 1 acre right there at the entrance.
Can you talk about
Yes, and so advantages. So right now, how many of you are familiar with Skyways?
Yeah.
Okay, so Skyways right now, and this goes back to what we're trying to do. So Skyways is a vertical takeoff and lift drone company. Okay, it's been fully operational at Greenport since February. Okay, they have one of the most successful, basically payload as a service, long range, beyond line of sight drone capability. They've won significant contracts with the U.S. military, and so they came to us because they can't train and log the hours that they need to really keep up with their growth. And so going back to bringing really unique technology and capabilities to Bastrop, now they're here and they've been fully operational. And oh, by the way, because they're also a very successful startup right now, started roughly about 2017, the other individuals and companies that they're courting and that they're talking with from a Series A's, they're coming to Bastrop County. We're hosting them. They're seeing their operations and they're going, oh wow, what else you got in Bastrop County? Oh, we didn't know about this. We didn't know about this. And so that's driving some very unique interests of some very sophisticated companies from DC to Silicon Valley.
I still don't see how that benefits Bastrop. As a homeowner, how does that?
Well, I think anytime you're bringing high-paying jobs, I think that does benefit Bastrop County. But that's just my opinion.
In your opinion?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, in what way, how does that benefit Bastrop County, in your opinion?
Okay, well, in my opinion, you have higher-paying jobs, so now you have more taxes to collect for the schools. School goes up, and oh, by the way, the quality control of the parents, the communities you're able to build because of the individuals that are coming here getting after hard problem sets. That's how I look at it, helping the community.
I think the concern is not the high-paying jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind of people who are going to be taking those jobs.
So right now, I would kind of give, Elon and the SpaceX, analogy. A unique thing is, when he came to town, from what I'm tracking is 70% of his employees in Bastrop County are from Bastrop County.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we don't
Or they
necessarily want
moved
people
in
from
to
California coming in here.
Correct. But
Or from New Jersey coming in.
well, and that's where I think we're a little bit unique is we have a, I think, very well aligned Texas worldview because my partners are Texan. And so as we're looking at companies and where they're from, what technology they're bringing, how they're thinking, we're going, do we want them in our community too? Because this is ultimately a Central Texas, ecosystem play. So we're very cognizant of that too. And I think can shape that a little bit.
Yes.
I wanted to just say, you said something about the jobs that are coming here. When I was door knocking, I remember one in particular. It wasn't that far away from SpaceX. I ran across a young man who was still living at home with his parents, but he was like maybe 19, 20, 21.
Is that when you're in my neighborhood, John?
No,
No.
this was across it was north of,
Oh, okay.
no, it's north-south. No, it was south of 71.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, he had just gotten a job. He had been working kind of odd jobs. He hadn't gone to college. He was working odd jobs along the way. He'd just gotten a job at SpaceX, and he was going to be doing building structures, kind of blue collar, hands-on, turning a wrench type stuff there at SpaceX. And he was as pumped as he could be because this was like the best opportunity he had ever envisioned in his life. And when you bring that kind, a SpaceX type deal to the deal, yeah, does it create more traffic, which I hate? Yes. Does it? It brings in maybe people who don't share our politics, maybe. But there's also people who grew up right here who are going to get better paying jobs and have opportunities that they never else might not have otherwise had. So those are the things that are balanced. Yes. I was knocking on his door because his mother voted the Republican. Hispanic woman who votes in the Republican primary. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think that's the big challenge. It's not that. It is part of that, but I moved to Bastrop because I thought it was a small town 10 years ago. Well, for the big runners or whatever. And now we're part of Austin.
ma'am,
I don't like it. A lot of people don't. It's like Houston is now Katy and Sugar Land.
We see it all
you know?
over the country, right? It just mushrooms out.
You just lose it. You lose your small town when all these big businesses come in. So we don't have a small town anymore.
Well, 500,000 people in the last 5 years moved to this area, specifically the central Texas, from California.
Because it was small.
Yes, ma'am.
It's gone.
I have a question. One of my clients, who's a pilot, he flies for general aviation, and he flies for the 1 million percent, 1% of the millionaires. Okay?
Ultra high net worth individuals?
Net jets, have you
Yep,
heard of
net
them?
jets.
Okay,
And-
so he flies for that.
Yep.
So
For sure.
you're gonna have clients like that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
that's what I get.
Yep.
Because he flies all over the place and, so now I understand more. Because I'm
Correct.
texting him saying, because he lives in the colony. And I'm like, did you know this was coming? And he said no. And so I sent him the link and stuff. And he's, like he said, Elon will be flying in there on private jets and avoiding Bergstrom. I mean,
That
he
wouldn't
flies
surprise me,
for,
yeah.
yeah, he flies for the 1 million of
Yeah.
the millionaires. So now I understand better.
Good
Thank
analogy.
you.
Anybody else? No?
You're gonna get Elon to bore a hole?
Bore a hole, yeah.
We're watching this technology very closely.
Stay
Very,
tuned.
very PC.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Now you know why I invited you to come, right?